Welcome to MindShareTV, where we spotlight the innovators and leaders shaping the future of learning. My name is Robert Martellacci of the MindShare Learning Report, and today I'm excited to be joined by a fellow Pepperdine University alumni, one of the leading voices in AI and education leadership, Dr. Kip Glazer, who is an author of the new book, Ready to Lead with AI, a practical guide for school leaders, a timely, actionable roadmap for navigating AI in today's schools. Kip, welcome to Mindshare TV. It's great to have you on our show.
Thank you for having me and go Waves.
Absolutely. And go Artemis, too. What an exciting time it is to be in education for sure. A little bit about Kip. More about Kip. As an expert in AI, as I mentioned, over 2 decades of experience across teaching, leadership, and innovation. A high school principal at Mountain View High School in Silicon Valley, she brings deep expertise in professional learning, research based pedagogy, and technology integration while championing the ethical use of AI to support students and educators. As an author, speaker, and consultant, Kip is known for blending practical insight, real world stories, and strong belief in youth agency through technology, always keeping humanity at the center. It was an honor to meet you at the Future of Ed conference this past January in Orlando, where I had an opportunity to interview your students, and we discovered we're fellow alumni. It's never been a more exciting time to be in education. Thoughts?
Absolutely. Yes. I thank you so much for that introduction. And one of the things that I like to share is I'm still a learner, and I don't know that there is any one sort of type of expert, if you will. We're on this journey together, and I welcome any opportunity to share that innovative, iterative, and forward thinking um, thoughts with fellow Pepperdine alumni as well as fellow EdTech enthusiasts like you.
Well, thank you for that. And why this book now? AI is moving at an incredible pace. What inspired you to write it, to lead with AI right now? Who did you have in mind as your audience? And I know you've been very generous in offering great advice to ed tech leaders who, uh, are passionate about making an impact, but don't necessarily have the pedagogical expertise uh, and other elements in their wheelhouse, if you will.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So we have a common friend, Jennifer Womble. She and I
Brilliant,
became
brilliant.
really, yes, really good friends, I like to believe, since we met last year at the ASU GSB Summit. And she and I were talking one day, and I was telling her about how I always wanted to be an author, and there is half finished book because when ChatGPT came out, I felt like, oh, this is going to be different, and I like to share my thoughts and experiences with my fellow school leaders because they have lots of responsibilities. And then life happened, school's ending, graduation comes. So I put aside that book. And then so I was talking to Jen about, yeah, I was writing this book for principals, and I don't know who's gonna read it, right? Like it's just my ideas in the book. And she said, oh, they will read it and they should read it because I was just at a conference because she goes to a lot of different gatherings. And she
As we
said,
do.
yes. And she said she was in front of a group of school leaders who had no idea where to start.
Mhm.
So she said, even if you just share some of your stories of your failure, perhaps they'll give them permission, encouragement to start somewhere because sometimes you don't even know where to start and you're frozen. So she encouraged me. And one of the things that she did was actually put me in touch with a publisher that she knew. So that goes to show you that there are people, great people in the world who, when they see a good idea, would actually take action and make connections. So here we are, few
Brilliant.
months
She's a
later.
real
Now
catalyst.
yes,
And
I give all the
so
credit to her.
So from fear to leadership, it's a good segue to the next question. Many school leaders feel overwhelmed or even intimidated by AI, even at the district level. How can they shift from fear to confident leadership? And leadership to me, and I talked about this at our Can-Am event at FETC, leadership is about mentorship. And if we're not mentoring, we're not leading, truly.
Mhm.
Over to you.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And yes, I think that is one of the most challenging and most important qualities that today's leaders have to have. And I think the situations have pushed us to get there, and you have to have courage because in my book, I write about how this AI revolution feels very similar to the pandemic, where we lost the elders in the field or we didn't have anybody. Nobody dealt with pandemic before the pandemic came, and nobody has dealt with AI revolution in schools before this came.
Mhm.
So I like to invite my fellow leaders to really think about what got you through that pandemic challenge with community, working together and co-constructing the solution. So that's why I decide to share my stories of all the failures, all the successes, or everything in between, so that we can start leading with courage.
Brilliant. AI with ethics at the core. You emphasize ethical AI use, and we really embrace that through our C21 not for profit and our focus around AI and our use case project. What does that look like in a real school environment, and where are leaders getting it wrong, perhaps?
Yes, I talk about how it is important to go second. It is important to go slow to go fast. So then we need to model experimentation and learning before we introduce it to the ecosystem, and looking for experts within our ecosystem where people are invited to experiment in a safe ways, and then being very explicit with our students and say there are a lot of things that we don't know yet, and we need to be very thoughtful about this. Unregulated experimentation and just using free tools without really thinking about implication is a problem, and we just have to really think about how we're protecting student data as well as staff data, right? Because when a
100%.
staff members use these free tools and put their own personal data, where does it go? Who gets to have access? How is it being used? These sort of questions have to be asked. And my good friend Sofia de Jesus and I wrote a framework as part of my Computer Science Teachers Association Equity Fellowship project
Amazing.
to start that conversation.
Brilliant. AI implementation in EdTech partnerships. I love this question because this is something that I've been immersed in for 30 plus years, having launched Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful's company back in the day, the Learning Company, and Rita Rabbit, and all those products, Oregon Trail, to go down memory lane. As schools move from exploration to implementation, what role should edtech solution providers play in supporting AI integration, not adoption? I got scolded by Dr. Seymour Papert when I mentioned adopting technology versus integrating. My first podcast ever while I was at Pepperdine, we were challenged to interview a high profile education leader in technology, and I landed Dr. Seymour Papert. And sadly, I had the last interview with him because he was injured, seriously injured in an accident in South Korea where he had been keynoting. We had sent him a Pepperdine sweatshirt in appreciation, and then the accident happened. It was just
Oh
very sad.
no.
But yeah, so sorry to digress. But how can school leaders build meaningful partnerships that truly align with teaching, learning, student outcomes, pedagogy? Oftentimes we'll see, a partnership forge, a sale happen, and then they just go away and move on to the next, customer. But you've been, this is not your first rodeo, so you've seen many scenarios, and you blogged about it on LinkedIn, which I thought was tremendous insight and inspiration that EdTech should be paying attention to, because it's coming straight from one of the leading experts and a practicing expert in the field as a principal in yourself.
Thank you for that. I really didn't expect it to take off like it did. I was so surprised how many people responded or asked questions about what I said. And so it was just a thought that I had after a conversation with a conference organizer. And she asked me, "What do you want to talk about?" And I said, "I want to talk to ed tech people and investors to like stop making solutions in search of problems." And I just posted out there, and then I keep
it
getting
struck
more.
A chord. You struck a
Yes.
chord, and you'll be presenting ASU GSV, which is one of the leading global conferences around industry and education leaders coming together to solve, these audacious challenges we have in education. And you struck a chord because it is one of the greatest failure points on the implementation side, is when it's the execution in partnership with the providers.
Yes, and I think if everyone start thinking we want to be the teacher that we want our own children to have, we want to be the school leader and principal that we want our own children to have, we want to be the company where when you picture your product in the hands of your own kids, what do they want their children to feel? Feel secure, feel safe, feel good, and love learning. And let's invite everybody to think about how we can build that learning ecosystem. And I think instead of just trying to solve that one singular problem, because students are not robots and teachers are people and school leaders are humans. And what makes us beautiful is our diversity, right? So if there are different needs, and how do we create school environment and ecosystem where the tools are embedded in a way that is centering our students and teachers will lead, I think we'll all be better for it.
Well said. And in my book that I talk about, that will be released in another month or so, and thank you for really inspiring me since we met in January, and I've been working furiously to get it done. It's about human connection and those essential durable skills. And you talk about student agency and empowering student agency. So let's go down that path. You are a strong believer in youth agency, and it was very evident by you having your students with you, presenting alongside you at the Future of Ed conference back in January. How can AI actually empower students rather than make them more dependent on technology? And by the way, we're just launching our Schools of the Future AI for Student Wellbeing Challenge, and challenging students, giving them agency to create and solve real world problems, leveraging AI for their own well-being.
Yes, I think I actually follow my students where they lead me, and I learn a lot from them. And I think that's the mindset and attitude that we want all educators and all grown-ups to have. And I keep talking about how the role of educator in the classroom is important as we bring lived experience. We bring wisdom. Technical skills may advance, but the ability to be the person who has lived life, we will always have. And I think we need to lean into that. Fortunately, unfortunately, many of these young people with other access to knowledge acquisition, they don't necessarily come to school to learn skills. They come to school and feel welcome because of you, the teacher in the room, or because of
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
people on campus who see them as people, look up and make eye contact and say, "You matter. So glad to see you." And I would love to see school system more focused on that, because as AI accelerate, my students can learn the content and manipulate the content and create with it so much faster.
Mhm.
And I feel like they need humans to ground them and say, it is not just about the grade you got or not just about the next app you made. It is the way that you center your humanity that makes you a better human. So that's what I see or emphasize with my students whenever I talk to them.
Brilliant, Kip. And what I love about you is you're so authentic and grounded, and you come across as an incredible listener, and listening skills are so vital. I had
Mhm.
a professor mentor from York University where I did my undergrad, who eventually ended up on my board of my company, that was so inspiring and mentoring me on some key skills, and particularly listening, and that is a skill that can be nurtured that most people don't realize that they have. Uh,
Yeah.
so, but from a practical steps perspective, your book is very practical. You, what are two or three immediate steps that school leaders can take to start leading with the eye effectively? And by the way, in Canada, and I'm not sure about the US, I presume that it's very similar, that a lot of districts have not started to move, although we're now in our third year really diving into AI because they're waiting for the state or the province to come up with guiding principles, and they're not moving. So, but kids are moving, kids are
Yeah.
embracing it. Some teachers are embracing it. 73% of kids, uh, KPMG did a study, are using it. 77% want to know how to use it ethically and responsibly, that they found. So, what are some practical tips that you might offer up that you've found were helpful in your problem solving exercise where you experience failure and success?
Yeah. So I think it's modeling. So
Hmm,
I like to model curiosity. That's why I'm actually active on LinkedIn. I ask questions
right.
and I model in a way. So for example, every Wednesday at my school, we send out what we call admin memo. That has all the things that are coming up within the next week or all the things that we forgot to tell them the week before. There is a structure to it. And I dump that into one of the Gen AI tools and I synthesized it as a action item. And I have a prompt that I use over and over and over to do that. And when I send out the actual memo, I put below is a Gen AI generated action item. Please know that Gen AI tools can make mistakes. So it is important that you read the actual memo. And then it gives you three things like action item, what's coming up, or remember, like there is a structure to it. So when I use AI tools, I try to say I did it and here's how I used it. So that modeling is important. And I have the tech internship program where I'm actually involved in vibe coding with my students. We're trying to actually create the tools with our kids so I can be the learner in that environment and listening to them and going, okay, how does what you are learning in your class connect to these tools that we're trying to build? So I try to bring that to them. And then also, I'm talking to you. I'm writing a book and I'm hoping that it's a journey with me, with my people, so that they know that I'm not done yet and I'm continuously learning. So those are the things that I'm
Brilliant.
doing. And I'm also
You're
asking the teachers explicitly, what do
right.
you want from me as a leader? What do you think
Right.
you could do?
the diffusion model that we talk about in Canada, we have this project, 30 use cases, and we're building, it's our third round. And we talk about the diffusion model. And one of the things we're doing is we're creating uh, an East Coast C21 AI cluster. Then we're going to take this national so that we collaborate and work together, because it really is a massive digital transformation we're going through that requires collaboration. You can't do it on
Mm-hmm.
your own,
Yeah.
and it takes partnerships. And so we found success in creating human networks. It's about
Yes.
interconnected human networks powered by AI, if you will,
Yes.
that I like to talk about. So your role of principal in the AI era. As a principal in Silicon Valley, of all places, it must be a remarkable time to be in Silicon Valley, because you're surrounded by brilliant people, innovations beyond any other region, with access and presumably partnerships as well. How has your leadership evolved in response to AI, and what does modern school leadership look like today? I know I got great inspiration and became more innovative having done my master's in that tech at Pepperdine. Sometimes you got to go beyond your, part of the diffusion model is going beyond your network to draw on more insight and share and learn, and bringing back new ideas. And that's what inspired my national education summit, my e-magazine, as a result of Pepperdine.
Yes, that's a great question. I've always been sort of not afraid to reach out to people.
Mhm.
If I see a great article, I reach out to the author and say, "Hey, here's what I thought about what you wrote, and I think it's
Cool.
great. Do you want to partner? Do you want to come to my school?" And that's how it happened with Tiffany Taylor. I was at a Google event and she spoke so eloquently about the importance of education and technology in bridging the or closing the achievement gap. I
Mhm.
walked up to her. I had no idea who she was. And I
Mhm.
just said, "You are so inspirational. And I'm a high school principal. Here's my card. If you're ever in the area, please come visit." And here we are 2 years later. She's inviting me to be on a panel. She did the endorsement for my book. And so that's what I say in my book as well. Like, there are learning technologies, researchers, NSF funded people always looking for great schools, or even just a school who is willing to partner with them in
Right.
learning together. So I think it's about having that openness and invitation. And or I reach out to podcasters and say, "Hey, I saw this podcast episode, it was so amazing, and here's what I'm doing if you're ever interested in talking to me." And I got lots of network connection that way. So I think you just have to ask questions, raise your hand, reach out.
Brilliant. Final question. Looking ahead, uh, 3 to 5 years, what does school that's truly ready to lead with AI look like? I know that's way out there, but what's your, looking back at the last 3 years that have been lightning speed? How many years have you been in the role of principal now?
This will be my 7th year.
Wow,
Yes.
wow.
4th year here. Yeah, no, most
You've seen an
principals.
incredible
Yeah,
transformation in a very short time.
absolutely.
Yeah, thoughts.
I would love to see student wellness and mental health and less pressure put on our kids.
Mm,
I and that's
right.
not something that I don't know if it's going to happen, but I think we have national crisis or like global crisis of our young
Mm,
people feeling hopeless or feeling like there's just too much pressure, too much screen time. They don't have time to just sit with their friends and just hang out. And I think that overscheduling, I hope maybe there is a
mhm,
great AI productivity tool to block out rest time, sleep time, and
right.
this friend time so that our kids feel like they're being seen as great, amazing young people that they are. That's what I hope for. That's what I'm working towards.
Uh, brilliant, brilliant closing comments. Final thoughts to share?
I just want to thank you, Robert. You've been so, so kind and amazing, supportive, and I really appreciate. I feel so lucky. I posted yesterday because so many of my friends right now are dealing with death in the family,
Hmm.
serious health crisis, and I was there 25 years ago when my husband was hospitalized. And had it not been for a kindness of a friend, I don't even know where I would be. So I try to always pay it forward. I try to encourage my fellow Pepperdine graduates, also
Right.
anyone who needs help. And if they find my book to be useful, that's great. So thank you so much.
Well, with that, thank you, Dr. Kip Glazer, for your time today. We're going to give one away. We're going to purchase a book on Amazon to the first person who comments on this podcast that was incredibly insightful, probably one of the top, I was going to say best ever, but top three for sure.
Oh,
We're always striving to achieve more. So thank you for your leadership in providing such a practical and human centered approach to AI in education. Ready to Lead with AI is exactly the kind of guide school leaders need right now.
thank
And to our
you.
Mindshare audience, thank you for joining us today. Be sure to check out www.mindsharelearning.ca to get your latest issue. And until next time, stay healthy, stay safe, and keep the learning curve steep.